Hey, y'all. Hey. Welcome in to the Round the Hay Bell Hey Y'all Hey radio show. I'm Ann with Andale Homestead. And
Well, hello. It is, y'all. I'm on the struggle bus tonight. It is Casey over at Ormsby Farms.
I'm Monica. We're at Bland's Promised Land Ranch.
And this is Sandy with Suburban Homesteader, Wyoming, Arizona. Now, Ann, can you say hi to all those people that are already in our chat?
oh my gracious, I would so love to. Hey, Asia Joe. She says she's usually in bed by this time. She's gonna swing around, say hi do. I know it's after 8 o'clock. I need to. Jersey. Hey, Jersey Dolphins. Rebecca, touched by yarn. Hey, baby. Glad to see you. So glad. Lazy days ahead with Jesse and Lisa, everybody's favorite mod father. He's amazing. Now Casey reminds me of the late night talk show Andy Cohen. Are they related? Are they related? Are you related, Casey?
Not that I know of.
No,
Not that I know of.
We have
So
our
we'll
own.
put it on a not don't know yet.
Okay, we have our own private star here, Jersey. So he's ours. He's ours. We'll claim him. How do? We're so glad you're here. And Casey, that's Jersey again. Penny Ortiz. Good evening, you, my dear friend. I'm glad to see you. So glad to have you here. Jackie C. Good evening, all. Lynette. Hey, Lynette. I'm so glad you're in here, honey. And she just joined the Survival Seeds 2025 collaboration.
Oh,
I'm thrilled for her. She's working it out. U.S. Freedom 5. How do? So glad you're here. Prime. Welcome in, my friend. Welcome in. And Ashley May. Hey, we're thrilled to have everybody. I hope that we got most everyone, and we certainly do appreciate you all being in here, and we treasure you. So, Sandy, what in the world are we discussing this evening?
well, it's the perfect time because we're talking about grow lights in your house to start those seeds, those seedlings, so that you can just plant them right into the garden. And we're going to talk about the good ones, the bad ones, ugly ones, all those things.
So,
And how much illumination they're putting onto the plants, how far to put them away from the plants. And yesterday morning on our podcast, we just kind of dove in there. So in the chat, how many of you guys use grow lights?
that's right. We want to know. Does anyone here in the chat use grow lights to grow their plants? Because I was listening a little bit to our podcast, and Monica was talking about back in the day when they didn't have such a thing. They didn't have such a thing as grow lights, right, Monica?
I mean, yeah, I I had grow lights for a while. I look like my whole living room has been pink for years. Like certain times of year, people are wondering what I'm growing in my house.
Can we just say, for those that have not listened to the podcast, this is probably the podcast you should probably join in and listen to, because it is, all of us were on prime funniness that day. I'll put it that way. But I have to give it out to our girl Sandy. Yeah, I'm telling you, she was spicy that night, and I lived for every second that she got on the microphone. Even editing the podcast, I was like, "Ooh, Sandy's about to come. Ooh, she's about to say something good." And she did. And you need to go listen, because it is very funny. Between Monica's house being judged through the neighborhood of Wyatt's Pink and Dale's house being seen by astronauts at the moon.
That's true.
And Sandy's humor. She's here one night only, with a $50 cover charge. So
I think I was actually shopping online for like new grow lights as the conversation was still happening. Like I was over here shopping at my monitor on the side, like actively shopping for new grow lights because I was afraid the ones I have were like bum. And so I was trying to make sure. But yeah, I mean, if you don't have grow lights, you can still do it, right? I mean, you can still put them by the windowsill, or I mean, they have other methods for not using grow lights. But yeah, I like my grow lights.
That's right. And Castle Hives uses grow lights. Penny Ortiz uses grow lights. Prime says yes, yes, yes. But there's something that we learned that came out yesterday. What is the difference in? I have a little bitty cheap one that was actually sent to me by a mystery guest. I have no idea who sent me this little two-prong grow light. But there's a difference in the strength and the lighting. What are those differences, Sandy?
Why are you asking me? Oh, no, sorry.
You're the information girl.
Well, let's talk about light, the whole aspect of light. Light is our particles. They're photons, right?
Right.
And they make a wave as they come. They're, 500 nanometers of light coming through is the speed of light. I mean, and that's a good range for growing plants. But
Wow.
our brain cannot fathom how fast that goes.
Right.
But it's all about the intensity of the light, the spectrum, the waves, the color of the light, how close you have it to the plants or how far, and how long you have those lights on.
Right.
And depending on the light you buy, because you could buy just a shop light. For a long time, that's all I used. That's what I could afford. And I put a cool and a warm, which means, one of the bulbs was giving me light that was good to grow plants. One of them was giving me light that would make it flower. But the combination of the two, the warm and the cool, in a shop light, isn't bad. I've grown thousands and thousands of seedlings that way. Now, do I think some of the new grow lights are better? By far, I do. And when you buy it in the box, they're going to give you information. They're going to tell you, it'll say PPFD.
Right.
And that's just basically the count of the photons. If we take it down to the simplest terms, it's the count of the photons that are going down, that are hitting a square meter, and how much it's doing per second. That's really all that is. But if you're going to grow seedlings, you want them to be around 500, 600, 700, and you will be successful.
Okay. All right. Because we compared the power of this one. It was like 460 to 600.
Yeah, it's
So
not bad.
that was the first time I had even paid attention to those numbers, quite frankly. Sorry, but I didn't know anything about it. So when you say making it simple and bringing it down, that's a big deal to be able to do that. Thank you.
Yeah, when you go to buy, look on the box, see what kind of information. It might say MMOL/M²/S. And you're just looking for a number, seeing what that number is that is going to tell you. And we could go into the whole complicated thing about it, but you just want to see what you're getting. Now, is an LED better than a shop light? Yes. So what's your goal?
Right.
On an LED or shop light, when you first start growing, they should be 6 inches above there. If they're too high, you get those leggy plants. So how many of you guys, Casey, okay, tell us your experience with lights.
Well, I have to say that right after we recorded the podcast, after learning what I learned, I threw away all of my grow lights that I had.
Oh my goodness.
Because I literally, and see, listen, I paid a good amount of money for the little setup, not necessarily just the grow lights, but the setup that I had. And every single year I was getting leggy plants.
Right.
I changed a little bit with like the chain where you would get the light closer to your plant, because I knew that leggy meant that it was reaching for something, whether that was nutrients or light or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
So I tried that, and still I was getting leggy plants. And I think I've learned from the podcast is that I wasn't getting the amount of PPFD.
PPFD.
PPFD. That was my second guess. of what I needed for it. And that when I decided I was going to start my plants again, I was going to re-listen to Round the Hay Bales podcast and shop strictly from the QR code of Round the Hay Bale, because that's where you can get all the stuff that Sandy talks about. But
right.
my experience was that I learned that if you get the cheaper of the grow lights, that you don't check, what light number or what it does, you're going to get the leggy plants. You're going to get the plants that don't grow as healthy or grow as strong as they should.
Yes.
And I did the same as Anne. Anne, I had the same ones as you had on yours. I guess mine were just not as cool as yours, because you said yours works, right?
Well, I mean, but that's because I learned through our podcast that at placing the grow lights within 4 to 6 inches of the plant makes a difference. Because I'd have this little pot down here, and I'd have the grow lights up here. And so, of course, the little thingies were trying to reach into something and just doing their little shimmy right up to that light. But when you bring it down and on top, like right on top of it, and luckily these are movable, easily movable, that you can just raise it a little at a time. And it's working. I don't know. It's working. So, and Monica, you said you use grow lights all the time.
Yeah, I was going to ask Sandy or anybody that's out there too that have experience with this. Can you overuse the grow lights? Like when it's too much? Because I've noticed a few of my plants that I have not been able to plant yet are starting to turn a little yellow, and I'm not sure why. There's some of my Trombosino squash, and they were doing really great, but over the last 6 or 7 days, they've started to turn yellowy. And I told the kids, I said, oh my gosh, we got to get these planted. We got to get them out of the pots. And they're in bigger pots. So now I'm getting a little nervous that they've got too much grow lights on them. I don't know.
Well, when it comes to a plant, you really have to think backwards. A plant is more concerned with the darkness than it is the light. That plants have to have a certain amount of dark. You can't have those lights going all 24 hours a day.
So you can't overdo the lights.
Yeah, they have to have that rest period.
Okay.
So like a regular shop light, a T8, you really have to have them 16 to 18 hours. And then it gets that rest period. Now, some of the really high output ones, you could do it in half that time. It's getting enough light in half that time. So you have to kind of be careful. And like Lisa puts it on timers. I have mine on timers. They just click on and off. I don't have to do anything. But if you had a cheap LED light, like Casey had before, they would literally need 34 hours of light a day.
Oh,
which is impossible. It's impossible.
That's
right. It's just not getting enough of anything that it needs.
Okay.
So even when you have to do a little bit, you have to do an output of expense. Sometimes that can be better. And if you have to start with shop lights, start with them. There is a conversion that you can go into the ballast part of a shop light and change it into an LED. There's videos online that you can watch how they do that, so that you turn that into a grow light. So those are things that some people do, but
so they can't overdo it. So you can overdo the amount of light.
You could, but I would guess more likely, one of a couple of things. One, it maybe it needs some kind of fertilizer.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've done that yet. The soil will, and the seed has enough for a certain amount of time.
Okay.
But then when the plants start getting bigger, they need some food.
Some food.
Yeah.
The other thing could be is maybe they're getting too much water. Maybe they're not drying out enough before they're getting watered again.
Okay. Yeah, my lights are on a timer too. But the problem is that my timer is like almost 9 years old, and he doesn't actually do the timer when he's supposed to, because like he's a physical timer. He goes in and pushes the button, turns it off.
I was
He's an 8.5-year-old kid
called
who
her
walks in
timer.
there, turns it on or turns it off. That's my timer. I'm like, hey, bro, did you turn the lights on? Did you turn the lights off? So
Yeah.
that's my timer. It's not very automatic. It kind of does it at different times a day. But I need to tell him about the 16 to 18 hours because I think that'll help
Mhm.
him, helping me. So he's
Right.
kind of the one in charge right now of my plants while mom's not able to do a lot of things.
Cool. Well, how about
That's
the
the win.
watering? How about the watering? Is he
He's
in charge?
watering. It might be that we're over watering because he's watering, and then I'm like, that doesn't look watered enough, and then I give more water because I can't really do much. So I'm gonna go in there and look and see what's going on tonight, and maybe check and see. But we're also gonna try to talk about a timer schedule to make sure that the grow lights aren't all on all the time because I have noticed that the past few days, especially, those grow lights are on a lot. And I asked him the other day, I said, have we turned these off recently?
Yeah.
He was like, I don't know, Mom. And I'm like, I think they need to go off during the
Maybe.
day, buddy. So that's why
I
I was
turn mine
asking that
off at night, though. But
Yes,
Penny, or I'm sorry.
no, you're good. I just didn't know if you could overdo it.
Well, theoretically, if you had some really high output ones, you could.
Yeah. And Penny Ortiz has a question. Every morning when the sun comes into my greenhouse, I turn off my lights and then put them back on at dusk. Sandy, am I doing this wrong?
Well, then they would probably basically getting light 24/7, and that's too much for a plant. It's like you have to even be careful with your outdoor lighting that you have around your yard. It's very popular to put those lights everywhere.
Right.
Every plant needs to be in darkness sometime, and it can affect especially perennials and trees eventually.
Huh. Well, I have a bush out there that hasn't grown in like 2 years, but I have little blinking lights on it that comes on at dusk every night. Do you
And
suppose that
does it
kind of
stay on all night long?
yeah.
Yeah, they need to get turned off.
Miss Anne's be killing her trees and
I've
shrubbery.
been killing mush. I'm doing it. That's
Her
right.
little shrubbery can't live its best life because she puts lights on it.
Just put a timer on there and let it turn off at midnight or something.
Really looks really cute. They're solar. So
I can loan you Ezekiel, but he's not really good at timing things right now. So if he gets better, I'll send him your way.
I don't know how to do that because they're solar. So I'd have to.
There are some solar powered lights now that will turn off at night, later on at night.
Oh, okay.
They're on the market that you can, they will turn, they're on when it gets dusk and they stay till a certain time. And I think you get to adjust what time that it turns off.
Okay. Oh, well, I'll have to look into that because these were like $1.50. So I don't know. Then they were
Yeah.
not expensive.
I was about to
And
say
they're
my solar one with my chickens do that. They go off about 3:00 in the morning. Yeah. So I have
Really?
ones around my chicken area, and they'll come on at dusk, and then they shut off at 3:00. Why? Because I got up to go to the restroom, and I noticed that they were off at 3:00. And so, fun fact.
Was that something special that you purchased? I mean, specifically lights that will go off. Did you look for that, or was it just a bonus?
I think it was just a bonus because
Oh,
I remember looking. But I have heard that there are like the Christmas twinkle lights, the solar ones, that are like 8 hours. I think they're 8 hours. So if they come on at like 6, they go off at whatever 8 hours from 6 is.
Mhm.
So I have heard of that.
Yeah.
well, I haven't really looked out there at 3:00 in the morning. I might need to check.
And really, those ones that you're only paying $1 some,
Yeah.
they don't output a lot of light. It's just that plants, like everything, need a rest period.
Sure. Well,
And the bigger our cities get, the more lights that are everywhere, even when we shut off all of our stuff, it does affect the plants.
it does. It does. Casey, internet must have done a little something, but we've got a backup. Couple of backups right here in the audience. And he'll be back. There he is.
I was dealing with allergies. If I disappear, I'm dealing with allergies. I mean,
Gotcha. All right. Well, thank you. I'm glad to have you here. So Faith is in our chat. Two Doves, Bees, and Gardens are here. And let's see. Oh, Lazy Days Ahead is doing the mod thing, and he is putting in information about big words that
Yeah, the
there's
rhythm.
the rhythm in plants plays a vital role in coordinating various biological processes, including growth, photosynthesis, and flowering.
Yeah,
And
it's just like when you say you have a Christmas cactus that you want it to flower.
yes,
Um, it's a photo period that you want to intensify the light, and that will stimulate it to make those flowers. And so
okay,
you could do that any time of the year. I mean, people want to do it when it's Christmas time, but you could trick the plant by just really having intense light for a while, and it would just make the buds.
that's awesome. Now I did that. This sounds really silly. I know. Look at the faces of these two here. They're going, but
I have a Christmas plant, the little sitting on my kitchen table on this little lazy Susan, and it's gorgeous, this beautiful, gorgeous green. And I'm like, I can't wait till it blooms again. But it
yeah,
blooms for like a hot second, then it goes away.
Well, you just gotta trick it now, Monica, and
I
Yeah,
know.
it
don't
needs
have
more
your
light.
kids stand around the corner and be like, "Boo!" and make it will, you know.
Maybe I'll
Um,
see about my timer to see if we can try to trick it.
okay.
Sometimes people will get a poinsettia and then they keep it after Christmas.
Hmm.
And the red part of the poinsettia is the flower. Those are leaves. But if say you just kept it and you just let it grow through the year, and pretty soon everything is green again. But if
Hmm.
you put it under a light, all of a sudden it's going to stimulate, and it's going to um, make the poinsettias.
Oh my gracious! Who
Yeah.
knew? I bought new poinsettias every year
Well,
because
they're actually a perennial.
yeah,
They grow
I'm
them in
noticing.
South America, Central America, and they get to be these great big huge bushes.
Oh well, we're just learning all kinds of things. And Susan says, "Do any of you do hydroponic gardening?" Okay. Yes, we do have hydroponic gardening. Most of us do. And that does have timers and lights on it
Mhm.
that,
Yeah.
and I was told in the beginning, and I don't know if this is right, but I was told that you if you're setting your timers, you set your timers to go off at night, just like us. They would sleep
Yes.
at night when it's dark,
Hmm.
and then instead of during the day when it's light.
Hmm.
So, because they said I was doing my plants a terrible injustice because there was no way in the world that they would have 24-hour light outside if I kept their lights on all night and then let them have sun during the day, that they would just die because there's no way. God doesn't make our earth like that. And I went, oh, well, that sort of makes sense a little bit. Now, BP says they are tropical plants. I missed it. It's scooting up.
That's
They're
a
tropical.
poinsettia.
Okay, you've seen them in Cook's Island.
Hmm.
Okay,
Yeah, they're
that's
beautiful. Yeah,
all right.
but like with a lot of hydroponic systems that you buy, the lights will come with them. If you're
Yes.
making a homemade hydroponic system, if it's not going to be outside, you do have to have some kind of light for it.
Mhm.
Usually, coming through the window is not enough light on a hydroponic system.
I've
Okay.
noticed also with my hydroponic system, there's three different choices of light for what you're growing. It was
Hmm.
like vegetable, flower, and lettuce was the three
Hmm.
different ones. And I guess it's longer light period. I've noticed that with my lettuce, it's on for 8 hours. So whenever you set it on there, the light is on for 8 hours and then it shuts off.
But wouldn't it be the color of the lights too? We talked about
It,
that, and I'm
it,
still
it's both.
Is it about, yeah, because that
Yeah.
looks just white
Uh,
from.
Well, they look that way, but when you want to grow, um, say you want to grow just leafy stuff,
Mhm.
the nanometers that you want is about 5 to 600. Where if you wanted it to flower, the nanometers would have to be 7 to 800. And
Mm.
those are two different colors. the blue or the bluish green, really, it's kind of bluish green, is that 4 to 600, depending on your light. And then the red is the other one. So when Casey wants to do the other, because he has 3 settings, you got your blue, you got your red, or you got both, which some people call purple. And we talked about that.
Oh, yes,
We
purple.
did.
Yeah. And Jesse's given it in Kelvin when it says 2700. Those are Kelvin, because there's a lot of different ways that they rate the light.
Right.
But a lot of boxes that you buy anymore, they're going to give you your PPFD. That's what it's going to say on your box.
PPFD. Remember that, folks. What can we, what, there's some sort of, my mother used to say all these sayings that went to like all the names.
That acronym?
Yes, acronyms. And PPFD.
Look at Casey knowing the word.
PPFD is photosynthetic photon flux density. I wrote it down so I would remember all the words.
That doesn't.
I was about to say Monica's face says it all.
I might not remember that. There's too much going on in this brain for me to know that too.
Okay. So if you're looking for the PPFD, it says that on your box. If you just want it to grow the plant, right? Say you wanted to grow cucumbers. You're just the plant itself, the PPFD would be 100 to 300. If you wanted to actually make the cucumbers in your house, which you'd probably have to pollinate yourself with a Q-tip,
Right.
you would want it 600 or 300 to 600 PPFD. So there's a lot of technical jargon, I guess I'd call it.
Yeah.
That you have to, if you're going to pay money for a light, do a little research.
There you go. There you go. And, I didn't really in the beginning, like I have shared with you before, I've had a friend that sent me a really nice grow light, very, very bright. And I didn't have any idea that you had different settings. I thought it was on and off. And I thought the more it was on, the better it was. And I just figured, and plus I had it hanging from the ceiling. So it was like 6 feet away from the plants, turned up full power, which is why I've shared with y'all that you could see it from the moon. But it wasn't helping the plants grow because it was obviously too far away and not on the right settings for the plants that I needed. So all of this is such good information to know.
Monica, when you're growing yours, what are you using? Shop lights? Are you using grow lights? What are you using?
So I'm using the grow lights. I think some of the ones that Casey had, where they're like there's the strip. You can actually push the little button and they hang from like a chain or whatever.
Yeah.
And they were great. I checked the PPFD when we were talking on the podcast because I was like literally on Amazon checking what I had, and they all fell within that range because I was like double checking what I had to make sure, and they all fall within the range. So I know, and I've used the same ones for like the last 3 or 4 years, and they work great as long as they're being watered and taken care of, and they get out of the little tiny pots and up potted fast enough. But this is the first time I've ever had any go like yellow. So I'm not sure if I really think some of it has to do with the amount of light they're getting because some of them actually look like they're burning up a little bit. I'm like, why are they? And I think that the lights have not been turned off. I have noticed them being on way more than they're not.
Okay.
And I think they're being turned on and they're just being left on. And I am not in there as much as I used to be because it's in the living room space and I'm not in my living room as much as I usually am because of my back currently. So I'm waiting and I'm like, I'm going to have to ask him when we get out of here. Have we turned those lights off lately?
There you go.
Just get some sort of
schedule.
And I know they're on at night, but they're also not in front of the window directly. So I tend to keep them on at night and then turn them off during the day. That's kind of what I've always done. And it's always worked for me because they're not in a space with a lot of light. They're kind of in a room that doesn't have a lot of natural lighting in it. So it's kind of okay that way. And it's always worked. But Yeah, I think they're on a lot more than they should be. My timer's a little broken right now, so.
Oh, it is, honey. We just want you to be better. We just want you to be better.
Yeah, and Jesse's put in some links too for you, for everybody in the chat,
Yeah.
so that they can look some stuff up. Because I mean, they're not. I mean, you can get expensive ones. You can, and they have higher outputs and stuff. But there are some very reasonable grow lights that you can get online in your local, like Home Depot, Lowe's, Menards, those kind of stores that will work quite well.
Mm-hmm.
You just want to know what your goal is before you purchase them. Is your goal to grow some tomatoes and then grow them all winter
Right.
in your house? You're going to need a higher output if you want it to flower and make fruit than just a simple little grow light that's on a chain.
So there's more to it than just plugging it in the wall and turning that bad boy on.
Well, just things to look at on how do you want to be successful in your garden?
There you go. And Asia says, just a quick hello, but also a good night. Past my bedtime. I'll try to catch the replay if I get free this week. God bless all of you. Thank you, Asia Joe. We really appreciate that. And y'all, it's that time of night. It's that time. We've been through our 30 minutes here already. It goes so quickly for us because we enjoy each other's company so much. We hope that we shared a little bit of light on the subject of grow lights.
Hey, one of the questions, I'm sorry, did you guys see that someone said, does anyone put their Christmas cactuses outside in the spring or summer? I don't know what the right answer for that one is. We just have ours on our kitchen table and a little lazy Susan just hanging there. So does anybody else do that?
Well, I haven't done that. You could do that.
Okay,
but
sorry, I just want to make sure.
I would just be very careful of how much direct sun for how many hours it's going to get. Because like we're talking about all these different things with your PPFDs and stuff. The sun is like 2000. It is, it's way more intense. So I would just, I'd slowly put it out, for an hour, then 2 hours. And just be careful to see if it can acclimate itself to
there you go.
the situation. You wouldn't want to kill your plant because all of a sudden, sometimes people will get succulents from people and they think they can just plant them in a full sun garden. That doesn't usually work very well.
Yeah. All right. And Jesse's girl says, I have a Thanksgiving cactus and have it on my bar under lights all day. And I got 2 flowers like a month ago. And it's a Thanksgiving cactus.
She tricked it.
Yeah.
Boo.
She did. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for being here, everyone. We love having you comment in the chat and learning with us. We're all learning from each other. Nobody knows everything, but together we can be stronger and learning from each other and where to go to find out even more. We learn from you as well in the chat. So we really appreciate you being here. Watch out for our podcast coming out next Monday. And then we'll be here Tuesday night at 8:00 to talk about it. Thank you. And we'll talk to you soon. So bye, y'all. Bye.
Bell Podcast?
What? Really? How easy?
That's right. All you have to do is say, Alexa, play Round the Hay Bale podcast.
Playing Round the Hay Bale podcast on Apple Music.
Ooh, we're really fancy now.
Tune in to Round the Hay Bale every Monday at 9 a.m. Central Time.